Since as far as I can remember, I have had a passion for sports, especially soccer. When I'm on the court, I feel a liberation and a deep sense of satisfaction. I first came to ACTS in 2005 when I came to Subang Jaya to further my studies at Inti College. The first 2 years, I was really committed to serving God, and my weekends were always packed with church activities. Slowly, I began to feel like I didn't have a life outside church. I had plenty of friends from church, yet I felt like I should find myself more friends from outside of church. Gradually, I began skipping church one Sunday and then another and then another. Soon it was normal for me to sleep in on Sundays. The longer I stayed away from church, the harder it began to go back. Some of the guys made an effort to stay in touch with me, particularly Pastor Andy. I also began hanging out with a group of people who weren't a good influence. Many times I found myself having to work to fit in with my new friends, to win their hearts. To do so, I needed money. So I got involved in football betting. I thought that because I knew so much about the game, I'll be able to use my knowledge to my advantage. True enough, I made some money, but I also lost a whole pile of it. One day I was betrayed by a close friend who used my betting account to gamble and lose a chunk of money. Worse still, the money in that account wasn't mine alone, but my cousins as well. At this point, the addiction wasn't just affecting me, it was affecting my family as well. It was the most challenging time of my life. Finally, when I just couldn't take it anymore, I went to God, because there was no one else who could do anything for me. As I opened the Bible, God spoke to me about how He must have felt when He was wrongfully accused when He gave His life for us. I remember feeling such a deep sense of conviction and remorse for what I had done. I knew God had allowed me to go through the whole situation just to draw me back to Him, because He loved me that much. Right there and then, I had a burning desire to go back to church. It was the only place I wanted to be. That Sunday, I chose to go back to ACTS. So I went for the 4 p.m. service on the 18th of July 2010. Pastor Andy preached about coming back to Jesus, and that day I rededicated my life to God. Ever since I came back to church that day, I have never missed a single Sunday service. God has just kept a fire in me that's burning for Him. In 2011, God gave me a vision to start a football team called Elastico, a team that plays with a difference. Since then, we have played for some major tournaments. We don't just strive to be really good players, but we aim to be players with great character. And it's given me an amazing avenue to reach out to these youths and make an impact in their lives.
Sam came back into our lives. He came back to ACTS Church. He was on fire. He was hungry for God, but he also had this skill and also this interest in sports in general. I had that sense that it was time, and then we had the man. I had put this offer before him that it would be good if he could come in to help us. Basics or before after school integrated community services came about. The whole thought of having an after school program to reach students, and now he is really excited about basics. He and Pastor Andy, we believe that in God's time it will start. But we are thankful that Sam is God's man to help us to put that together.
I was about 14 when I first met Pastor Kenneth and his team in my hometown in Kuantan, where they had come to be a part of a Christian rally. It was a sizable event, and there was a large crowd of young people just rocking it out with the music. It was pretty exciting. Once I was done with school, I moved from Kuantan to KL to pursue a degree in media and design. It wasn't until my final year in uni that I decided to look for a church. By then, my younger brother Albert had come down from Kuantan to study as well, and he was attending a church called ACTS. So one day I decided just to pop by. At that time, there were about 10 to 15 people in ACTS, but I was also just checking out different churches. But one thing that I really enjoyed in ACTS was the Word, because Pastor Kenneth wasn't afraid to address issues that were considered taboo back then. One day, near the end of my course, I found myself alone in my room, feeling lost and confused with life, and generally just seeking for answers. That day, something supernatural happened. I heard a voice prompting me to speak to Pastor Kenneth about things I was going through. So that very Sunday, I asked Pastor Kenneth if I could talk to him and get some counsel. And I wasn't expecting it, but he said yes. And soon after that one talk, we were meeting regularly outside of Sundays, and Pastor counseled me over various issues. I was resolute about starting over, so I surrendered my life back to God and began rooting down in Acts. In the year 2003, I graduated and even managed to score well for my final year. It was then that I thought maybe to give 1 year of my life to volunteer at AYA, or Asian Youth Ambassadors, which is the youth and community arm of Acts Church. Pastor Kenneth eventually decided to hire me as a designer for AYA, and I've been with Acts and AYA for about 9 years now. We put a team together, and Elder Kuan Chin was actually one of those involved. And after some weeks and months of prayer and preparation, we were all set to launch Acts Cyberjaya on the 30th of March 2008. This was the first ever flyer we designed to tell people about the experience coming to you at Cyberjaya.
I came to Malaysia from Zimbabwe in 2008 to study at Lim Kok Wing University. As I was settling down, I was also looking for a church to attend. One day I picked up a flyer from the floor near the university library. It was an invitation to Acts Cyberjaya. There was a number on it to call or SMS for transport. So I sent a text message to the person in charge, who at that time was Elder Kuan Chin. When that Sunday arrived, I had initially decided not to go for the Acts Cyberjaya launch, as I'd attended another church service that morning. But when Elder Kuan Chin called to say that the bus had already at my hostel, I agreed to go anyway. Up to this point, I'd already visited 3 other churches, and I was waiting for their replies. It rained that day, but when we arrived at Acts Cyberjaya, several hosts carrying umbrellas came to the bus to walk us in. After the service, the church had lunch together. There was just so much warmth in the atmosphere. As I left church that day, I remember telling myself, this is the one. Just 2 days later, on Tuesday, I received an email from Pastor Kenneth saying, I hear you're looking for a church. I believe Acts is the one for you. There's been no turning back ever since. Later on, I met a girl, Tumi, at my hostel. I did not know her before that, but I invited her to church. Tumi then brought 6 other friends, Nete, Waitse, Tato, Ongs, Florence, and Leah. Acts Church taught me that serving is not age dependent. At Acts, young people are encouraged to serve. As I unpacked my bags at Acts, I began serving in Expresso, which is the hospitality team. I enjoyed it so much. And later on, I served with the host team and also in Acts campus. At one point, I had the privilege of opening up my house for homes, which is a place where you get to do life together in small groups. The people I've met at Acts Church are like family away from home.
In 2004, my dad passed away. Because he was a free thinker, my family was trying to decide between conducting the funeral according to either Hindu or Christian rites. Eventually, we settled on having a Christian funeral. Back then, my sister Jesserina attended Acts Church, and Acts had graciously agreed to conduct the funeral service.
So we found out from Jessie that her father had passed away suddenly, and whether we would mind doing the memorial and the funeral. The first question, of course, for a pastor is this man who has passed on, was he a believer? Was he Christian? Why do we ask that? Well, because it only makes sense. The answer back to us was no, he was not a believer. And the majority of the family members weren't believers. Should I do this? Why should I do this? You know, because I was actually asking here and asking there, and is this even normal? And of course, all the feedback was no lah. I know, why should we do it? You know, it doesn't make sense at all. So I got on my knees, because this was Jesserina asking, you know, and one of your church members asking, you've got relationship, and so you say, God, what would you want me to do? It was actually easier to just say no lah. You know, I don't think Jesserina would have been terribly angry with us. But the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, if Jesus was here on the earth, physically himself, these are places that he would go to.
Even though I was not a Christian then, I remembered experiencing such a strong presence of God. I felt His assurance and a sense of peace and comfort that God was with our family during that difficult time. The following Sunday, my mother, my brother, Rayson, and I followed Jesse to Acts. We wanted to thank the church for anchoring the funeral. That Sunday, my mom and I gave our hearts to Jesus, and my brother rededicated his life. After that, my hunger to know more about God grew. Pastor Jack followed up with me consistently, and every time we met up, he would take me through an hour of Bible study. If there's one thing that kept me coming back, it would be how the church was so intentional about sowing into people's lives and genuinely interested to do life with you. In 2006, I graduated and got my first job in Bangi, where God opened the doors for me to connect with a college in the vicinity. Acts took the opportunity to launch out and plant a homes for the Sedang and Bangi community. Soon, we were seeing students coming from Nilai as well. Gradually, I got more involved as we eventually planted Acts Nilai in April 2010.
I first met Pastor Kenneth and his team of youths when I was still in secondary school in Kuantan, where they had come to organize a Christian event. It was for the first time where I saw people dancing and playing music in such a meaningful way, with so much passion for God. So after I finished schooling and was headed to Subang Jaya to further my studies, I immediately sought out for Acts Church.
I first came to Acts during my first year in university, and I must say that my life at that time wasn't at its best. Acts Church was about 50 people strong when I first began visiting. At first, I was skeptical as to whether the people were for real. They were always smiling and constantly friendly. Still, I loved the worship. It was perhaps the first thing that captured my heart.
The day I stepped in, I felt that I could connect with the Word and the worship. It was the same power and presence of God I experienced back in Kuantan when Pastor Kenneth and his team visited. I unpacked my bags and made Acts my home right away. Soon, I also began dancing for Lightbulb, which is the dance ministry of Acts Church.
After 4 years in Acts, I knew who Albert was, but we never actually had a conversation. Our first real conversation took off when Lightbulb needed a replacement dancer for an event called the AYA Awards back in 2005. Elder Shirley knew I danced at university, and she got Albert to ask me if I was keen to dance for Lightbulb.
We danced and hung out with the same bunch of friends. And after a year, I realized I had feelings for Rachel. We had the privilege to go through this thing in Acts Church we call pre-courtship with our very own Pastor Kenneth and Pastor Sandra.
And after that, we came under the mentorship of Elder Daniel and Elder Adeline, who also became our pre-marriage counselors. They are still our mentors up till today and constantly doing life with us. Both our pastors and elders are our spiritual parents, and we love them very much.
Rachel and I were married on 27th February 2010, one day before Acts Church celebrated her 10th anniversary.
They've become sons and daughters, son and daughter of the house. Even in their own personal lives, we had the opportunity to speak into their lives. And because they've done life with us, they've done life with the church, they're people that they lead. So when it came to, their big day, and we were all involved, I'm just amazed that they were able to, not just take off into the sunset on our anniversary, which was their wedding, the day after their wedding. It just amazes me that this is such a precious couple that would get married the day before, had a long day, gonna spend their first night together, come to church, just relax, come to church service, but they were on our dance team. And they've not just done that for their wedding day after, but they've done it every other anniversary.
My life has never been the same since I rooted down in Acts, and really I'm just giving out from what I have received and am still receiving, and I constantly cheer the girls I mentor to do the same. Today, Albert and I still dance for Lightbulb together, but aside from that, we serve on separate dream teams as well.
It is our greatest privilege to serve God. Because He has brought us together through our dancing at Acts Church, we desire to carry our marriage in a way that will be a testimony for others.
When Acts Church started 13 years ago, I wanted to build a dream church because we really believe that there is a calling of Joseph on my life and on the church. In fact, there's a prophecy on Acts Church that's called it a Joseph church. A dream church, in summary, would be a church that looked like the book of Acts. On fire, revived, in love with God, in love with their families, out there in the community. Today I can say with thanksgiving in my heart that we've come to a place whereby dreams are beginning to come alive. Not just my dream, but the dreams of people in and within the church. It's about God's dream. Then, what is God's dream for the church? And I would like to be that church. I would like X Church to be the dream church that is fulfilling God's dream. X Church is not completely a dream church until it helps fulfill the dreams of other churches. And this is what I'm beginning to see more and more. So what would the future hold for us? That we see more of this. That we ourselves haven't arrived. So let's be that dream church. Let's bring pleasure to God's heart. Let's be radical. Let's be abnormal, even if the world has to brand us like that way. But let's do that. Let's love when people don't deserve it. Let's, forgive when people didn't even ask for it.
Thank you, church, for being such a supportive, cheering church for all that X wants to do and will do, and for the love that you have shown not only to us but to the whole team and to even the new people that are coming in. So we have got many more years to go, more exciting dreams to dream together. So thank you, and let's keep flying together for the glory of God.
Ex-partners, thank you so much for believing, for supporting, and for doing all that needs to be done to make dreams come true with God. We want to wish you, as you wish us, a very, very happy birthday and a very happy anniversary. It's only 13, but it's been great 13 years. Yeah. We want to, especially together on your behalf as well, say a big thank you to our Creator,
Amen.
Our God, the one who's made all these past 13 years great, and the one who's going to make the next 13 years even greater. To God be all the glory. God bless you. Happy birthday to all of you. Let's celebrate.
Amen.
Look forward. Amen.
Amen.